It started off as one of those trips you plan for months, a celebration of our anniversary. My wife Lisa and I had been together for 8 years, and this was supposed to be special, just the two of us away from the noise of daily life. We booked a cozy cabin by the lake, packed our bags, and set out with high hopes. The first day was perfect: sunny skies, the smell of pine, and that feeling that everything was just right. But deep down, I'd always sensed something. Little cracks in the perfect image we had. Lisa was always busy, distracted even when she was supposed to be present. I brushed it off, telling myself that maybe she just had a lot on her mind. Still, I noticed she'd check her phone more than usual, often hiding it when I looked her way. I thought I was imagining things. Trust, I told myself. I trusted her. That's what people say in these stories, right? You ignore the signs until it's too late. That evening after dinner, I decided to check the hotel's security footage, because honestly, I was feeling uneasy. It was just a vague suspicion, but I needed to see if there was anything that could explain the weird vibe I'd been feeling all day. I used the hotel's app on my phone, logged into the security system, and started scrolling through the footage. What I saw made my stomach turn. I didn't want to believe it at first. The footage showed Lisa, our Lisa, walking into the hotel with my best friend Mark. I saw them laugh, exchange a quick kiss, and then head into a room together. No, it wasn't some innocent encounter. They stayed in there for a while, and then I saw them leaving together, walking side by side. The way they looked at each other, like they shared a secret I was never meant to know, made me feel sick. My palms went cold and my heart pounded so loud I thought I'd hear it echo in my ears. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? Why, I'd always believed Mark was my friend, the guy I trusted with my life. And Lisa, she was supposed to be my wife, my partner. That trust shattered in the blink of an eye. I watched the footage twice more, just to make sure I wasn't losing it. The evidence was clear. They'd lied, betrayed everything I thought was real. I could feel my jaw tighten, my fists clenched so hard my nails almost dug into my palms. I kept replaying the scene, wishing I could somehow undo what I'd just seen. How had I missed the signs? How did I not see this coming? I stepped back from the screen, my head spinning. My mind was a jumble of anger and disbelief, but mostly I felt numb. A betrayal this raw, living it in real time, hit harder than I expected. I wanted to scream, to shout at Lisa, to shake Mark until he told me what the hell he thought he was doing. But instead, I sat there in silence, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. That night, I couldn't sleep. My stomach was in knots and the taste of ash was on my tongue. I kept replaying the footage, trying to find some way this could be a mistake. But it was. It was all there, staring me right in the face. The next morning, I knew what I had to do. Whatever I thought this was, whatever I believed about trust and loyalty, it was gone. All that was left was a burning need for justice, not just to punish them, but to make sure they understood what they'd done. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I'd figure it out. And when I did, Lisa and Mark wouldn't know what hit them. I looked over at her sleeping, her face peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I clenched my fists, feeling the cold fire of betrayal surge through my veins. The game was on now. I was going to make sure they paid for what they'd done in a way they wouldn't forget. And I'd walk away from this with my head held high, knowing I'd taken back what was mine. Do you want me to go on? I spent the rest of that morning trying to piece together what I'd just seen. My mind kept circling back to the footage, the way Lisa and Mark looked at each other, the familiarity, the secret language they shared. How long had they been sneaking around? Had she been lying to me for weeks? Months? The thought made my stomach churn. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hotel corridor, their faces close, whispering in each other's ears like they thought I wasn't watching. I didn't want to confront her right away. I needed a plan, something sharp, something that would hit them where it hurt. I didn't want a shouting match. I wanted them to realize the extent of my knowledge, the betrayal I'd uncovered. I spent the next hour packing around the cabin, my fingers twitching with the need to act, but also a sense of calm, cold, deliberate. I knew I had to handle this carefully if I was going to come out the other side with some shred of dignity. Finally, I decided I'd let her think I didn't know anything. I played it cool when she woke up, asking her how she slept, pretending everything was normal. I kept my voice even, my tone light but edged with that undercurrent of anger I couldn't hide. She looked at me with those innocent eyes and said, "You seem distant, babe. Is everything okay?" I forced a smile, brushed her arm, and said, "I'm fine, just exhausted from the trip, but I've been thinking about us, about trust." Those words felt like knives sliding under my skin. She blinked, surprised maybe, but I kept going. "I saw some things yesterday on the security footage I know about Mark." Her face froze, her eyes flickering rapidly, guilt, panic, something else I couldn't quite read. She stammered, trying to spin a story, but I cut her off. "Save it, I saw enough. I saw you leaving that hotel with him, kissing, holding hands, the whole damn thing. You lied to me for weeks." "Why?" She looked like she'd been caught in a trap. Her mouth moved, but no words came out at first. Then she whispered, "It's not what you think, it's complicated." That phrase, the classic dodge, set me off even more. "Don't give me that," I snapped. "It's always complicated, isn't it? Well, I'm done. I want my stuff and I want you gone. You don't get to keep pretending this was just a mistake." She tried to argue, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear," I interrupted, voice cold. "You're not swearing your way out of this. I trusted you, Lisa. I believed in us. And this is a betrayal I can't forgive. So, I'll give you an hour to pack your things. After that, don't bother trying to contact me. I want nothing more to do with you." She looked broken, helpless even, but part of me was already beyond caring. I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me, not yet. I needed time to think, to plan what came next. As she stumbled out of the room, I sat down, fists clenched, feeling the adrenaline rush through my veins. I'd always thought I'd be the one betrayed, but I never imagined it would hit this hard. The trust we built, the years we shared, crumbling in a matter of seconds. I looked around the cabin, the familiar furniture suddenly menacing, the walls closing in. I needed to get control again. Who knew what she was going to do next? The thought of her trying to spin some sob story, or worse, lying about her feelings, made me want to scream. But I knew better. The moment she left, I'd start executing my plan. For now, I just sat there, staring at the door, feeling the cold weight of betrayal settle into my bones. One thing was clear: this wasn't going to end with a simple breakup. No, I was going to make sure she paid for this. The question was how, and that's when I started to formulate my revenge, something cold, calculated, and permanent. But I'd keep that to myself for now. The first step was to make her believe I was broken, while I was quietly preparing to turn the tables. Did you want me to keep going? I spent the next couple of hours quietly gathering myself. My mind kept circling back to what I'd seen, but I knew better than to let that chaos spill over immediately. I needed to be strategic. The first thing I did was go through every piece of evidence I had: screenshots, recordings, even the hotel receipt from the night before. I wanted everything in order, airtight, so I could use it when the time came. While she was packing her bag, I sat on the porch, feeling the rough wood under my palms. The air was thick and humid, but I barely noticed. My heart was pounding with a strange mixture of fury and clarity. I'd always considered myself a straightforward guy, trust first, doubt second. But now I saw how naive that was. I'd been blind, believing in an image that was long gone. I decided to set a trap, one that would make her see she was caught without me having to say a word. I knew Mark's number by heart, but I didn't want to call him directly yet. Instead, I made a fake social media account, a burner profile. I wanted to see if I could bait him into slipping up. So I sent a message pretending to be an admirer who'd seen the photos of Lisa and him at the hotel. Just a little nudge, enough to get him to slip. Within minutes, I got a reply. Mark was quick. "Yeah, so what? She's my friend and we were just catching up, nothing more." That lie didn't sit right. I kept the conversation going, pushing him, probing for details. It was clear he wasn't going to confess outright, but he definitely knew I was onto him. Meanwhile, Lisa was nervously packing around the cabin, trying to act normal. She kept glancing at her phone, probably worried I was about to confront her again, or worse, that I'd already done something I couldn't take back. I kept my face calm, but my mind was boiling. I wanted her to realize I wasn't as broken as I looked. "I don't want to fight," I finally said, voice even but heavy with implication. "But I want the truth. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" She looked at me with wide, pleading eyes. It's not what it looks like. We didn't mean for it to happen. Mark and I were just... Save it, I cut her off sharply. You think I'm stupid. I saw the footage. I know everything now. And there's no way we're fixing this. You can stay if you want, but I won't be here when you come back. I'm done pretending I didn't see. That was the moment I realized I had to act fast. I'd spent years trusting her, and now I was going to make her see that her betrayal wouldn't just go unpunished. I was going to take control. I pulled out my phone, sent a few more messages, and started planning how I'd turn this around. I knew Mark was never going to come clean, not unless I forced him. So I kept pushing, waiting for that moment when he'd slip up. Meanwhile, I made a plan to confront Lisa directly, but on my terms. I wanted her to understand what I was capable of when pushed too far. That evening, I sat at the table, my mind racing with ideas. I wasn't just going to kick her out, no, this was going to be a lesson. She'd regret betraying me every day she was with Mark, knowing I'd been the one who caught them. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to see that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. As the sun dipped behind the trees, casting long shadows over the porch, I realized this was just the beginning. My next move would be decisive. I had everything I needed now: proof, a plan, and a clear sense of what I wanted to accomplish. They thought I was broken. No, I was just getting started. Want me to continue? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa and Mark, that stolen moment, playing on repeat. But I also knew I couldn't let that feeling of betrayal turn into chaos. I had to stay sharp, keep control of myself. The plan was ready, and I was going to make sure it hit its mark. Before dawn, I got up early and took a slow walk around the cabin. The air was still thick, damp from the night, and the woods around us whispered with the wind. I let the coolness settle over me, focusing on what I needed to do. I'd been betrayed, yes, but betrayal wasn't enough to destroy me. Yet, I had to make her see she'd crossed a line and that I was still in charge. While Lisa was still asleep, I grabbed my phone and typed out a message to Mark, pretending to be an anonymous admirer again. I told him I was close to exposing everything, something about catching him in a lie. His reply was quick, cocky, but nervous underneath. Good luck. You don't know what you're messing with. That was all I needed for now. I stored the conversation, knowing it would come in handy later. Then I turned my attention back to Lisa. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time in a way that would make her realize I knew exactly how deep her betrayal went. I sat at the edge of the porch, waiting until she stirred. When she finally opened her eyes, I saw the guilt lurking behind her tired gaze. I want to talk, I said softly, but with a firmness she recognized. It's better if we're honest now, no more hiding. She hesitated, then sat up, rubbing her eyes. What do you want to say? I want you to tell me everything, I said. The truth about how long this has been going on with Mark. How many times you've seen him behind my back. I want to know exactly what you think I deserve. Her face crumpled. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't want to hurt you, but Enough, I cut her off. I know you've been lying. I saw the footage. I saw you leaving that hotel with him. You're not going to twist your way out of this. I gave you a chance to be honest. She broke down then, tears streaming down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was lonely, and Mark made me feel alive again. I thought I was doing it for us, for me. I was stupid. That word, stupid, made me angrier than anything else. I felt my fists tighten again. Stupid, that's all you think this is. I trusted you. Every day I spent building a life with you, I thought we had something real. And now I find out it was all a lie. She looked at me with desperation. Please, I'll do anything, just don't throw everything away. I love you. I laughed bitterly. Love? You call this love? You cheated, betrayed everything we had. How many times? Tell me, Lisa. How many times? She looked away, silent. I could see her struggling, the guilt finally cracking her facade. That's when I knew I had to act, and fast. I had to make her see that her actions had consequences, serious ones. I've made up my mind, I said, voice cold now. You're leaving today. Don't bother trying to call or text. Drive away and don't come back. If you think you can just apologize and everything's fine, that's not how this works. She looked at me, eyes wide with shock. You're serious? Dead serious, I replied. You want to cheat? Fine, but I'll be the one walking away with my dignity intact. Not you. As she packed her things, I pulled out my phone again and kept the burner account active, watching her every move. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, maybe call Mark, try to explain away her guilt. But I wasn't done. I had one more move up my sleeve. While she was in the bathroom, I slipped her phone out of her bag and started scrolling through her messages. Sure enough, there were texts to Mark, pleading, trying to cover her tracks. I took screenshots of everything, proof for when I'd need it. I wanted her to see I wasn't going to forget. When she finally came out, clutching her suitcase, I handed her a bag with her things, ignoring her tearful pleas. "This is for you, take it, and don't try to contact me. If I see you again, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did." She looked devastated, but I didn't care. I felt a strange calm now, a sense of control I hadn't felt in a long time. I watched her get in her car and drive away, knowing this was the end of everything. That moment watching her leave, knowing I'd won, was bitter and cold but also oddly freeing. I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to mend. What I learned: be careful where you put your trust, because sometimes the biggest betrayals come from the people you least expect. And when that happens, the only way forward is to take back your power. Would you like me to continue? The silence that settled after Lisa drove away was deafening. I sat in the cabin, my hands trembling slightly as I stared at the pile of her things. All the trust I'd given, all the years we shared, gone in an instant. For a while I just stared out at the woods, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. It was like my chest was filled with ash, heavy and cold. I finally stood up and stretched, feeling the ache in my shoulders from hours of packing and planning. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a strange emptiness. I knew I had won that little battle, but the war was far from over. Mark was still out there, probably panicking now, and Lisa was probably crying her eyes out, somewhere trying to justify her actions. I didn't care. My focus was on one thing: I had to finish what I started. I pulled out my phone and opened the messages I'd saved from her phone earlier. The ones where she begged Mark, the ones where she tried to cover her tracks. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling some satisfaction. But I also knew that I needed to be smart. Revenge that's pure emotion can backfire, so I had to keep my head straight. I had a plan, one that involved a little more than just letting her go. I texted Mark again, pretending to be someone new, an old friend who'd heard rumors about him and Lisa. I told him I knew everything, that I had proof, and that he better be careful because I'd already started making moves to expose him. I kept it vague enough to scare him, but clear enough for him to understand I was serious. Within minutes, I received a reply. Mark was defensive, angry, trying to deny everything. I played the part of the calm, composed enemy, pushing him to admit what I already knew. "You're messing with the wrong guy." He said, "You don't want to push me." I responded with something simple but effective. "Maybe I don't, but I suggest you think about what's more important, your reputation or whatever lies you're telling now, because I've got the receipts." That was when I felt that faint flicker of satisfaction again. The truth was, I wanted him to panic. I wanted him to realize that I was already 2 steps ahead. While he was trying to deny everything, I was gathering my evidence, planning my next move. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making sure they both understood I wasn't to be played with. Meanwhile, I also started to think about how I would confront Lisa again, once she realized the full extent of what I'd done. I knew she'd try to spin some story, maybe try to manipulate her way back into my good graces. But that wasn't going to happen. Not after I'd seen the truth. I'd make her see that her betrayal had consequences, serious ones. I took a deep breath and looked out into the woods again. The sun was rising slowly, casting a dim light over the trees. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I'd finally taken control after feeling helpless for so long. Anger because I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I pulled out my laptop and drafted a message I would send her later once I was ready. It was simple. I was done. I was handing over her keys, her belongings, and I was going to make sure she understood she'd made her choice, and I'd made mine. I'd tell her to leave the past behind, that she was no longer part of my life, and to never contact me again. That's when it hit me. This was about more than just revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. I'd trusted, I'd loved, and I'd been betrayed. But I wasn't going to let her define me anymore. I was going to walk away from this stronger, smarter, and more aware of what to watch out for. The next step was clear. Once I finished my messages and turned everything over, I'd go to the bank, withdraw what I needed, and change the locks. I'd start fresh. The keys I handed her today would be the last ones she ever held to my life. As I closed my laptop, the sun finally broke through the trees, casting a golden light. I felt that quiet, cold resolve settle in. She might think she got away, but I knew the truth. She lost my trust, and I was going to make sure she paid for it. It was a harsh lesson, but one I'd make sure she never forgot. Would you like me to continue with the final part? The moment I finished packing the last of her things and placed the keys on the table, a strange calm washed over me. It was like I'd finally taken back control, like I'd reclaimed a piece of myself I thought I'd lost. The entire ordeal had been brutal and emotional. I never expected to ride, but now it was over, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool morning air fill my lungs. My hands were still a little shaky from everything, but beneath that there was a sense of clarity. I'd exposed the betrayal, confronted her, and made sure she understood I wasn't going to be played anymore. That was the key. She had to see she'd lost my trust, and I had to make it clear she would never get it back. I handed her the envelope with all her belongings, watching her eyes flicker with a mix of shock and heartbreak. Her face was hollow, her posture defeated. She reached for it as if it was a lifeline, but I held firm. "This is everything you left behind," I said, voice steady. "I don't want to see you again. Take your shit and go." She nodded silently, clutching the envelope like it was all she had left. As she turned to leave, I felt that cold, distant pride settle deep inside me. My heart was heavy, but I knew this was the only way forward. I couldn't let her anymore, not after what she'd done. Once she was out the door, I closed it behind her and leaned against it for a moment. The silence was almost deafening, but this time it felt different, peaceful almost. I knew I'd be okay. I'd rebuild in time. Trust might have been broken, but I was still standing, stronger than ever. I took the keys I'd handed her and tucked them into my pocket. Then I logged into my bank account, some money, and started the process of changing my locks. I had to start fresh, no loose ends, no ties to her. It was time to close that chapter. As I looked around the empty cabin, my mind wandered. I felt a strange sense of liberation, even as my chest still clung to the sting of betrayal. I'd been naive. I'd trusted her blindly. But now I saw clearly. Trust isn't given lightly anymore, not after this. It has to be earned, and sometimes it's better to protect yourself from the start. The final thing I did was compose a simple message I knew she would never see. A final goodbye, a declaration of my new boundaries. I typed it out, hit send, and then deleted her number from my phone. I didn't want to see her name again, not ever. That's when I realized the one thing I truly learned from this mess. Sometimes the only way to regain your peace is to cut out the poison, no matter how much it hurts. People betray you, but you get to decide how much power they have over you. I chose to take my power back. As I stepped outside, the cool breeze hit my face, fresh, untainted. I took a long breath, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. The sun was shining brighter now, promising new beginnings. I knew there would be scars, but they'd fade with time. What mattered was that I'd survived, and I'd come out of this knowing exactly what I was worth. No more secrets, no more lies, just a clean slate and the hard-earned lesson that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and never looking back.